It's time right now for us to sit down with our friends from the Salem Memorial Hospital. Sam's in. Happy New Year, Sam. Woohoo!
Happy New Year.
All right. I know you're having a great New Year already. It's only been, 2.5 days in.
All right.
But that's okay. That's okay. Good to have you aboard. Anyway, very good. Good to have you in. Haven't seen you in about 6 months. So.
I know, it's been a while.
So tell us a little bit about you still working down with the jail people?
I am.
And how is that going?
It's going really well.
Well, tell us a little bit about, now that I brought that up, not that you knew I was going to bring that up, your phone just fell. If you need to pick that up, I'll let you break away for a minute. There you go. What is it when you go to the jail? What is it that you do? What are you doing down there? As you know, you don't have to go into great detail, but a little bit of a description. Generally, what you take care of when you're down there.
So typically, like if new inmates come in, I see them for what we call an initial intake. So basically, it's like a history, physical, and exam.
Okay.
Verify if they're on meds currently, get those restarted, send those to the pharmacy, or, if people are acutely sick, I see them for that, things like that.
So when they come in,
like
when they come in and they say, "Hey, I'm on this medication," you have to verify that.
Oh,
before you
absolutely.
do anything else.
Absolutely.
You just can't take their word for it.
No. I usually request their records.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes some of them will remember like what pharmacy they had it filled through, and then I can call the pharmacy and verify that way too. But typically, I just request all their records before I just start them on anything. So.
Well, that'd be a wise thing to do, because I'm sure that they're all truthful.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody would lie to you when they're in jail. Why would they do that? But the neat thing about it is that that's being taken care of our home folks right now.
Yep.
That used to be actually contracted out down to Waynesville years ago, and they did it for a number of years. But I always wondered, if there's something happened to somebody, who are you going to call in Waynesville that's going to get up here in immediate fashion?
Right.
Nobody.
Right.
So has everything gone pretty smooth with that since Salem has taken over?
Yeah.
It's been about a year now, right?
It's been a year.
Okay.
It was a year on the 1st, actually.
Oh, wow. Woohoo! Let's have a party.
In the beginning, I did some like reorganizing, restructuring, and now that I've done all that, it's running really smoothly, and we have a routine, and the staff knows it, I know it, and so.
Okay. So you're regularly down there. Is that a 2-day a week, 1 day a week? How
2
are you doing?
days.
2
I'm
days.
there Wednesday afternoon and Friday afternoon,
Okay.
and then I have a nurse that goes Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday.
Okay. But if there's an
So.
emergency, you could be called.
Oh yeah. We have somebody on call 24/7. Me and a couple of the other providers are on call. When I'm in clinic though, like Tuesday through Friday, I'm the one who's on call until 6 p.m. And then like if it's my week on call, I'm just on call. If it's a different provider, they take over at 6 p.m. and get them through until 8 a.m. and so.
Okay, very good. So and for our listeners who may not know, that this is a contract with the Denton County Jail that the Salem Hospital entered into, you say just a little over a year ago.
Yep.
That's like a year and 2 days ago. And they have been providing that service down there. So when you go into a room with a prisoner and having to do the test, I'm sure there's a deputy there, plus they have you on surveillance as well.
There's a med room.
Okay.
So I actually have like an exam table in there, and then typically I will have 1 or 2 jailers in there with
Okay.
me at all times. I'm never in there alone or around them alone or anything like that.
And depending upon what they're in there for, obviously either a female jailer or a male jailer.
Correct. Yep. If it's a female, there's typically a female jailer with her, unless there's not a female available, like a female jailer. And typically, if it's just like a history and physical, a male can be in there because
Yeah.
they don't get undressed.
There's other
or
tests, though,
nothing
that
like
you
that,
probably don't
so.
want to have a guy in there for.
Correct.
Yeah, there are certain things like that, but which is totally understandable.
Right.
But a lot of this is for the safety, not only for you, but also everybody said, well, patient. Well, patients can get a little bit rambunctious. And, of course, you would possibly have medications on you that could slow them down quickly. I mean, I'm not saying you do. I wouldn't do that. But that's why we don't want any lawsuits. That's
Right.
why there's always protection. You have a witness in there. It's on surveillance. It's on tape.
Yep.
Or I should say it's on hard drive. And I can't say tape anymore. You know, you used to say, well, just check the tape. Check the hard drive, check the cloud, whatever we're going to check.
Whatever it's on,
yeah. Whatever it's on. So, I mean, it's a whole structured program, what the hospital's doing with the jail, and it has run very good since it got started, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
well, glad to hear that. I mean, because I know with the previous provider, it was not running very smoothly. They weren't here very often, and they weren't doing the right tests, and then jail it got backed up. So when they were there, they were stacked upon stacked upon stacked, trying to get all these tests through.
Right.
And according to one guy I know who worked down there, he said, they were just passing them through. They didn't really even, like you're saying, do a history on them. They really weren't paying much attention to any of that.
Yep. I've heard that.
Okay. So it wasn't just me hearing that. It
No,
was
no.
passed on. Well, anyway, keep up the good work down there. And that's really kind of your baby, isn't it?
That is my baby. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I'm the main provider that goes. Obviously, if I'm on vacation, I have a different provider that does cover.
You get a vacation?
Sometimes.
Really?
I did last year.
Okay. Okay. So
but-
so you guys hand it off to another provider
Yeah.
when you,
and
you
it's
can't be there.
typically like if I only take the week off, she would only have to go Wednesday and Friday.
Sure.
So,
Okay, very good.
and typically I try to keep it light for her those days that way because I know it in and out. Like she doesn't know it as well as I do, so I try to tell them to keep it light for her.
But you never know, there might be a run that week.
Well, it just so happened when she did cover for me last summer, there was.
Yeah, it does happen. You just can't tell when things are going to happen.
Nope.
There's no doubt about that. So anyway, well, congratulations on the success of that program, and I'm sure our local jailers are thrilled with our local hospital being able to provide that service right here in town. They get a lot better service. They get a lot more input from, obviously, you guys into what the prisoners are coming in with or trying to pull over.
Yeah.
I'm sure they all try and get something pushed past you guys.
Of course.
It's kind of a challenge, because you kind of know.
It is.
They're not in there because they're of their good graces.
Right.
Because they've done something obviously wrong. But keep up the great work there. Now, in addition to that, though, you're still a nurse practitioner working out at the clinic.
Correct.
So you kind of do double duty.
I do.
You're a wild girl. All right. So when are
Just
you?
keeps me busy.
So Wednesday and Friday afternoons, you're at the jail. But
Right.
what days are you currently at the clinic?
Tuesday, I am there from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
You got a long day.
Yeah. But it works well for people who get off at 5.
Absolutely, it does, and that's good. That's a
Um,
great thing for our clinic to be open till
It
6.
is. Wednesday, I work 8 to about noon. Then I go to the jail.
Okay.
Thursday, I work 8 to 6. And then Friday, work 8 to about noon. And then some Saturdays, because
Some
we have
Saturdays.
a Saturday clinic from 9 to 2 p.m.
Right, and that's a walk-in clinic.
Yes.
Yeah, no
Yep.
appointments are
No
taken that
appointments
day.
necessary. Just walk in and, yeah.
But it's
So,
been busy at the clinic, hasn't it?
it has been extremely busy.
There's a lot of different viruses and bugs going around. Why don't you just kind of update people on what is out there right now? We talked a little bit before we came on the air. Everything from RSV to just a stomach bug, but there's a whole bunch in between.
Yep. So we've seen lots of babies with RSV. For a while, we were seeing a lot of rhinovirus, which is the virus that causes the common cold. COVID spiked back up, and then influenza A, I have had quite a few positives on those as well. And then the stomach bug, like you said. Other than that, those are like the main ones I have been seeing. Lots of strep, too.
That's what I've heard. And normally you
Yeah.
don't see as much strep, but I mean, it is holiday time, and
Right.
that does get spread around pretty quick.
Right.
And, one of the things when we talk about influenza A, and I, attending a lot of the hospital board meetings and seeing when they would report the changes in when the flu used to arrive in Salem, and when the most reported cases used to be starting in November, go in December, used to have a spike like right at the end of December, then another one in February. Now it seems like we're getting the spike in January, and then we'll have another one in March.
Yeah.
Is that what you're seeing more of lately?
It has been changing. I mean, the strains change every year.
Sure.
But it changes. But this year we've actually seen cases earlier than we have, which was pretty uncommon. My first one was, I think it was before Thanksgiving. I was like,
Wow.
holy cow, like this is early. So I'll be interested to see how it spikes out the rest of flu season per se.
Well, and people shouldn't make light of the flu, especially if
Oh
you get a
no.
full-blown flu. That's why they always recommend you get a flu shot. Yes, it will not prevent you from getting the flu, but it will help with some of those symptoms. And some of those symptoms, Sam, we all know. I mean, high fever,
High
and the
fevers.
congestion. You feel horrible. I mean, it just wears you. You're absolutely just listless because you have no energy.
Absolutely. Yeah. It does not prevent you from getting it. It is to help prevent hospitalization and to help reduce your symptoms. And it's not a live vaccine, so it does not give you the flu. And you have a 2 week period before that vaccine takes full effect. So you get your shot and you're not fully immune for 2 weeks. So if you get the flu in between that, it's not because you got the shot. It's because you're not fully immune. So, and like I said, the strain changes every year, so it's not going to prevent you from getting it, but it hopefully help your symptoms.
Yeah, strains just the flu is just really weird, and COVID's done it too. It mutates, and when that strain mutates, it creates a new strain, and then that one can mutate and create another new strain. It just continues to change a little bit to where whatever vaccination you had back in October, by March it will help, but it may not be as effective as it would have been back in October. So definitely want to make sure you get that flu shot. If you haven't had it yet and you are going to be out and about in the public a lot, I highly recommend you still get one.
I agree. Yep.
Yeah.
Especially this year, like I said, I've seen lots of influenza A this year, and it's been really high fevers, like 103, 104.
I want that.
Cough, runny nose, congestion. Some people have had nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. Everybody varies, but mainly it's the high fever, and they just have awful body aches. So,
A high fever is the scary part. Because
Yeah,
you get 104, you're in some dangerous territory. You know, that's not where you want to be. And and a lot of people, we don't want to say. I mean, I've heard stranger things before, people putting ice packs all over their body to try and cool down. Well, as long as you don't put it over your heart, you're probably in pretty good shape. But back of your neck and armpits,
Groin.
etc. Yeah, in the groin areas, absolutely. Not a bad thing to do if you have a high fever. The problem is that with fever, usually with flus and stuff of that nature, come and go quickly. They may rise and then they go away, and then they rise and they go away. So if you're sitting there with a bunch of ice packs on you, all of a sudden, whoo, I'm freezing. Get this stuff, and it does change like that, doesn't it?
Yep. That's pretty common. I mean, once, like, if you take Tylenol or ibuprofen, that wears off, then obviously it could spike back up. If you use ice packs and you don't take medicine, I mean, you still need to have that on board as well, I think.
Yeah, and always watch that fever, though. And I recommend everybody have a thermometer at home. You do need to have one. You don't want to see that fever going up to 104. If it's starting to climb a little bit higher than that, 104 and a half, you need to call the hospital, don't you? You need to get to the ER.
Yep. And especially if you can't, especially in your, immunocompromised people, kids, and your elderly, those people will dehydrate quicker with higher fevers than anybody. But even, a healthy individual, still, if they can't get it to break and go down, then
Yeah, you definitely, you need medical attention. When it gets, you don't want to get to 105. That's not a good thing. And if 104 is bad enough.
104 is pushing it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, 104. If you're 104 plus at all, you should really probably be getting to the ER. You might want to try and go to the clinic, but I think at that point you may just want to head down to the ER and let them get you under control, because you just don't need to take a chance of that. That can be detrimental to your health in more ways than one. Your vital organs get damaged. Your brain can kind of get some damage. You just don't want any of that.
Right. Right.
We were talking about the flu that way. We also talked, there's still COVID out there. People seem to have forgotten that COVID is not the flu. Somebody said, well, it's just the flu. It's a form of a virus. It's similar, but it's not the same, is it?
No, it is not the same. They have similar symptoms, yes, but I've been in the medical field for 13 years now, and COVID is probably one of the craziest things I have ever seen.
It has a lot of different symptoms for different people, doesn't it?
Literally I could have one patient come in and they have high fevers, cough, chills, body aches, all of that, and they test positive. And then I can have a patient right after that and they don't have a fever at all. They're just super congested. They have a cough that they can't get rid of and they're positive. Like, everybody is so different. And then the after effects of COVID have been crazy in patients too. Between heart issues, blood clots, lung issues, lung damage, long-term, weakness. It's just, it has been the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I know.
And it's nothing like the flu.
Right. I know when I had COVID, actually, and I did not know it, it was shutting my kidneys down. I had no symptoms whatsoever until I passed out. And then I found out, well, let's see, your kidneys are shutting down. You have colitis, you have pneumonia, you have all this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yes, you have all this, and now we have to treat it. But, I didn't really have any symptoms. I had a little bit of pain in my kidneys, just a little bit, kind of like, precursor of a kidney stone.
Ooh.
So when you've had kidney stones, you feel that you're like, uh-oh, here it comes again. The thing that got me was after I got out of the hospital, went home, after they got my kidneys and everything back into normal shape, that's when I got a sudden congestion I couldn't breathe at all. My lungs absolutely just filled. I couldn't breathe, and I started coughing. I was gasping for air. All in one day. That happened in one day. And I was like, what the heck is this? That's part of that COVID. So, I got on some Trelegy, was able, it took about 3 or 4 days for me to finally kind of break through and start to breathe again, where you could actually take a deep breath. Couldn't even take a deep breath. So if you had to cough and try and gasp for air, it was really hard.
Yeah.
So anybody that says, COVID, I ain't worried about it, you should be worried about it. You should be really worried about anything that can affect your health long term.
Correct. Yeah. Especially if you have elderly people in your family or people who are immunocompromised, which means, their immune system's weakened, whether it be to an autoimmune disease or cancer or, a long-term lung disease. Like, you should be worried about those people, even if you feel fine. But, just remember, it can affect your long-term health as well.
Yeah.
And everybody's different, so I can't tell you exactly what your long-term effects would be compared to the next person's.
Right.
But
let's talk about a little bit really quickly about pneumonia, because for a while it seemed like we had a lot of people were getting pneumonia. And I think it was just because the weather was crazy. It was going hot, it was going cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. And then, people get outside and they think, it's hot today. And they get out there at 50 degrees in a T-shirt and they start to sweat. And then all of a sudden the sun goes down and bang, it's 25 degrees. Brr! And then when you're perspiring like that and you've got that moisture on you, you take chills really quickly. And I'm not saying that's the cause of pneumonia, but it sure doesn't help. And if you are already compromised a little bit, pneumonia can set in very quickly. And you don't want to just ignore it. Somebody said, well, it'll go away. Yeah, it could scar you as well. And it's the scarring of your lungs that's the big problem with pneumonia, isn't it?
absolutely, yeah. So anytime you get pneumonia, it does cause scarring to your lungs. And that is something that affects you long term, whether it be, like years from now or anything like that. It does cause scar tissue in your lungs, and so it's important to get it treated quickly so it doesn't cause terrible damage.
Advanced damage,
Yeah.
We don't want to see that with anybody. So if you start to feel odd, and I'm not going to say bad, because you may not feel bad, you just may feel different. especially this time of year. Things can really be creeping up, all kinds of things. RSV, you were talking about that in babies, but RSV is also in seniors as well. Older people can get it just like babies can.
Yeah, and actually anybody of any age
Sure.
can get it. Typically, the most people that you see it in are the younger babies and yeah, even up to like 2. And then your older adults. Like I said, anybody can get it. Typically, somebody above young and not elderly, they can
will fight it off,
tolerate. They
yeah.
can pretty well fight it off. But the babies really struggle with it. So it's important, don't be touching them. Wash your hands.
Right. Well, wash your hands is just good for everything.
Right. Well, you're
constantly.
right.
Yeah.
And if you're sick, stay home. Don't send your kids to school sick. I get it. You have to go to work, but
Sure.
that's how everything spreads.
Well, it does, and and even if you think they're okay enough to get by in the morning is probably not enough to get by in the afternoon, and you may be getting a phone call anyway.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anything you want us for a new year that you think people should probably do to help their health?
Well, it's the new year, so that means it's time to start annual wellness visits over again.
Oh my, how about that?
Annual wellness visits are typically covered by all insurances. That includes labs that fall under their specific wellness labs. Usually that's things to check your kidney function, sodium, potassium, blood count, your glycohemoglobin or hemoglobin A1C, which tells us what your blood sugar's been running over the last 3 months, but also tells you if you're diabetic, not, or pre-diabetic. And then a thyroid, most of them will cover as well under
Okay.
a wellness. That also includes mammograms for those 40 and older, colonoscopies, prostate antigen levels, bone density scans for older patients who typically women are going to be at higher risk for fractures due to hormones and
Sure.
stuff. But
It's that time, isn't it?
It is that time.
Yeah.
So it depends on what part of the year you were seen in 2023, but
Sure.
if you were seen in January for your wellness, it's time.
Right. Well, and if you weren't seen in 2023, you definitely need to get that done.
It's really important, even for a lot of people say, "Well, I'm only 20, I'm healthy." Like, no, it's still important to get your labs, because if you're not eating correctly, your cholesterol level could be through the roof, which
Sure.
puts you at higher risk for heart attack and stroke. So even if you're only 20 and you've been healthy, it's really important just to get blood work and, have an assessment and get that done.
I used to get a physical every year, just so they can test the blood and do that. And then, of course, when the health fairs would start, when the Salem started doing their free health fairs, then I would get it done 3 times a year, because
Right.
they had first it was once, then it was twice, then it was 3 times a year, and I'd get it done each time. And I've still got all those records of where my numbers were. And so somebody says, "Well, this is high and this is high." I said, "Look, it's been that way for 12 years.
Right.
That's got to be my normal."
Right. And some people are that way. Yeah.
And so when one snapshot doesn't tell you a lot, 2 snapshots a little bit better, 3 even better, 22 are pretty good idea where
Right.
you're going to be, and and that's why I kept them, because sometimes, I'm not going to say this in a bad way, but when you get the blood work back, you have a one-time snapshot. That's
Right.
all you have.
Right.
And you can talk to the patient and say, is this normal for you? Do you have previous records of it? Well, they don't have any. Then obviously,
Right.
if something is really obscurely high, you're going to have another test taken, because
Right.
It could have been wrong. But
Right.
but if it's always been, like my gout's always been, when they say my gout, my uric acid has always been 8.1 to 9.9, always. And I remember getting a call from the clinic from an inexperienced nurse that says, "How's your gout?" And I said, "I don't have gout." "Sure you do. Your uric acid is 8.9. And I said, "Well, I hate to tell you, but I don't." She said, "Well, you probably will have it soon." I said, "I don't think so. It's been this way." Again, talking without the proper documentation to know the history You just don't know.
Right.
So that one-time snapshot that they got, oh my God, he's got, you know, 9.5. He's probably hurting really bad. Well, maybe most people would, not this guy. So
Well, that's good.
it is good, But I think that's one thing that patients don't do enough of, Sam, is learn what their body's norm is.
Right.
I remember at the age of 6, and we had a family doctor. Back then, everything was 120 over 80 with blood pressure. I mean, no exceptions. 120 over 80. Didn't matter. I remember my mom took me to the doctor, took my blood pressure. It was 134 over 88. And he looked at my mom, and my mom says, is he okay? She goes, he's fine. He's 6. That's his normal. He's got nothing to worry about. He's not under stress. He's not sick. He said, we'll take it again at the end of the doctor visit. I said, but if it's going to be right in that same ballpark, it's not going to be exactly the same, but if it's in that same ballpark, that's his normal. At 6 years old, there is no pressure on this child. So he's good. And she goes, but every 120 over, he goes, that's a rule of thumb. That's not set in stone. He goes, but unfortunately, there's some doctors out there that are prescribing medication for anybody that's just a shade over 120. No need to. So he told my mom that when I was 6, and she wrote that down. She said, your blood pressure, your normal, is a little higher than the norm. Always remember that, because when some doctor may try and tell you that, oh, you're 134 over 84, you need medication. You tell them, no, don't think so. But again, everybody is different. And,
right.
And if you have that, and I've had that blood pressure pretty much for 50 years of my life that I can remember, pretty much 135 over 84, 88. It's always been there. Yay. I guess I'm consistent. Now, lately, that's been different. It's gone, and I have no idea. It starts spiking. And so we have to figure out what that problem is. Right. Why did it suddenly spike to 260 over 180?
Yeah, that's not good.
No, that's good. That puts you in the hospital real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
yep.
so I made a couple visits. But for what reason? Nobody has that reason yet. So we're trying to figure it out, trying to get it under control. And we're working on it.
Good.
We're working on it.
Good. Yep.
But there's a lot of steps, because it can be from a number of different things. It can be from your kidneys. It can be, other just outside factors with just stress, because it's not just internal.
Yep.
So
Caffeine,
yeah. And I already had my coffee this morning, but two bad things about that. You don't have the caffeine and you're a caffeine drinker, you're going to get a bad headache that night.
Right.
No doubt about it. So you have to drink some to get you past the day. You just don't want to drink 15 pots.
Exactly.
That's not just a wise thing. But also, like sodas, the high content of sugar that can raise your blood pressure. You're learning a lot. When you have an issue, you learn a lot about what you don't do.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and so you got to fight the fight, but you need to have the ammunition to fight the fight and realize maybe what you've been ingesting. And I don't drink a lot of sodas, so that's never been an issue. I don't take salt. That's not part of the issue. Those two factors were eliminated right away.
Right.
Which is great, but there's still
something.
Quite a few other ones out there that, you just don't know how things affect your body. And I was telling Sam when we came on, I was given a water pill for that uric acid, and it sent my blood pressure out of sight over the weekend. Why? So I stopped taking it. I took it twice. Both times my blood pressure was over 200.
Jeez.
The whole day. Couldn't get it down, no matter what I did. I stopped taking it, and then I was back to 153. Now, you tell me, what was the problem? I can tell you what it was. And one little pill. But you don't know how something's going to mix with the medication you're taking.
Correct.
And so
everybody's different and takes medications differently.
So if you need that extra bottle, I've got a perfectly almost full one that I'm not going to be using. But you need to take precautions. Just because somebody gives you a medication does not mean it's perfect for your system.
Correct.
And that's why they always, I should say, you guys, almost every time I ever get a new prescription, the doctor says, if you have a side effect, call immediately.
Yes. Yep.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because when you take the medication, if you suddenly get hives, flushed, if you get ill, if you start running a fever, if something changes suddenly because you took the medication, you could be allergic to something in that medication. It's always possible.
Yep.
So I might be allergic to something in that medication, but I sure didn't need to send my blood pressure that high. Hives would have been fine.
It worked opposite in your body, it sounds
Well,
like.
and it says one of the side effects says high blood pressure. So why am I taking this? I didn't get it. But anyway, not about me. It's about our patients here in Salem. So again, annual wellness, good thing to do.
Absolutely.
And really,
Yep.
I think everybody should have a schedule on that.
Yep.
Also,
A good way to remember that is get it around your birthday.
this is a good way.
Yep.
I used to, like I said, I would do it in kind of coordination with the health fairs the hospital had.
Right.
I really missed those. They were really great to have. And, I know they were talking about bringing it back. I know right now during the transition, that's not going to happen at the current time. But then again, you've got other sources. If you have a need to get tests, get them done.
Yep.
Our hospital can still do your blood work and still get it done. And yes, if you have insurance and you have an illness, many times it's going to be covered by insurance.
Yep.
If you just want to go get tested on your own, there's other avenues to get that done too at a fairly affordable rate.
Yep.
So
Yep.
there you go. It's important though to keep your eye on your blood. It tells a lot of stories, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh. Your blood tells a lot. Yes.
I remember when I was in and they took my blood and they, I had some chest pain, and they said, well, you're not having a heart attack. You can tell by the blood. The enzymes aren't right. How do you see that? I mean, I can't see it. But they said, yeah, you're fine. But you're getting pressure. Now, why are you getting the pressure? Now, see, there's a next question that comes
Right.
up. You're not having a heart attack, but why do you feel this way?
Right. Right.
And that's where Sam and her cohorts come into play, because that's what you work on and trying to find that answer.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's not about just giving you medication to get past the pain or whatever. It's find out the cause and why it's so important to find the cause. Medication can disguise something for a long time, but if it's not fixing it, or you're not really addressing the issue, it's going to creep up on you another different way somewhere down the road that might be a lot worse.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
Yep.
Unfortunately, I've seen way too many people take just painkillers just to kill pain, but they're not addressing their problem.
Exactly. Yep.
So don't do that, please. We always want you around as long as we can possibly have you.
Absolutely.
Any last words, Sam? Tell our listeners? Happy New Year, maybe?
Yeah. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Like I said, my schedule is Tuesday through Friday at the clinic, 8 to 6 Tuesday and Thursday. Wednesday and Friday I'm there 8 to noon, and I am still accepting new patients.
Very
So
good. And 7298000?
correct. Yep.
Very good. And
Yep.
you can just tell them you want an appointment with Sam and make it easy.
Correct.
Very good. It does make it easy. Thank you again for coming in. Happy New Year to you and your family. I'm glad you're over your little bug that you had. I'm not going into that detail that you did with us before, but we hope you have a fantastic rest of the day.
You too. Happy
All
New
right.
Year.
Thank you very much.
Thank